Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Keeping It Real with America's Supermom. I am so delighted to have a returning guest. Alberto is here yet again to come and share his knowledge and insight with us. So I'm so excited. He is actually located in Australia. And so I'm excited to hear how his new year is starting, what some of his goals are. But before we get into that, I want to give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Oh, hello, Lachelle, and thank you for having me here. And it's a pleasure to be your guest. It was great fun last time, and yeah, hope we can have a wonderful evening for me and morning for you. Yeah? And
Yeah.
hello everyone, and wishing the best for everybody in these times that we were mentioning before. It's not the brightest time in history, but well, it's the time to actually bring forward the best of us.
So true. Yes. So tell everybody a little bit about what life is like for you every day in Australia, with your career and things that you do.
hmm Well, what I do mostly, as I mentioned to you in the last time we spoke, I deal with financial markets and actually your financial markets, the US. And I found the Australian market a bit too small, and so I created a company in which I teach people. I've spent the last few months writing a book, and it's been quite an interesting process. It's funny that it took me about 3 weeks to write it, and it's taken me over 3 months to edit it. But it's the way it goes. And
We're our own worst critics, right? You probably need to give it to somebody else to edit.
yeah, because I mean the first the core idea is the same, and it's there, and it's what really needed to free flow really. But then it needs to be polished, and I have to thank my wife for that, because she's a lot more precise than I am in that regard. And she just, oh, that's not quite right. And she says, oh dear, no, it isn't. So we need to change it. And yeah, we're reaching the end, so
Mm-hmm.
it should be ready. Hopefully in a couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm looking forward to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, since I'm mentioning that, yes, for you and for your viewers or your listeners, I'm happy to give them a free copy once the book is available.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
If they have any interest on it, I talk a little bit about the way I do things, why I do them the way I do them, and why it works. So it's a tiny book, but it's quite precious to me. Put a bit of time, a bit of effort, and yeah, for those of you that want a free copy, I'm happy to give it just as a once-off. I don't know if I can write here where you can get it. Just send an email to my to my address.
okay.
I can probably write it here or mention it later.
Yeah, I will put it in the show notes. So,
Yeah.
I love that because I want to kind of stop here because so many people have a lot of knowledge and skills
hmm
that maybe during the pandemic they had to kind of retire those, in the way that they were used to using them. So, for the process of writing a book, what word of encouragement would you give to people who still have those skills, but maybe their jobs have changed or they're reinventing themselves?
Um,
What advice would you give?
well, first thing is to understand that you are valuable. That you have. The first thing is what seems to us as an everyday thing, as a very easy thing, as something that is, well, there's no mystery about it. For some other person, is totally alien, and they're gonna go, "Wow, I never thought about this." So there's we don't give enough credit to what we know. So that's the first thing that we need to understand, that the knowledge that we had is valuable.
Mhm.
And once you get that, is write a little skeleton of what you need to do, or what you want to put in words, and then just work on that skeleton and make it happen. And I mean, what I've written is not big. It's I think it's about 120 pages, but it doesn't need to be big. It's just something that flows from you, and it brings the truth that is in you about whatever it is that you do. And it can be carpentry, it can be I don't know, holistic healing, whatever it is. We all have a, a little pearl of wisdom inside us, and more than anything is the will to do it,
Mhm.
and then just go and do it. Just pick up pen and paper, as we used to say in the old days, and get down to it. Just get on with it, because you have something valuable. You do. I like to think I do, and anybody else with any kind of knowledge can just, uh, if not to make it commercial, at least for the sake of feeling better about yourself. Oh, look what I have. Look what I did. Look what I can offer. Look what I
Mhm.
can teach. And every information is valuable. It doesn't matter what it is.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I mean, that is so true. And that's something that, we forget that, when we have situations that are always out of our control, we forget the resources and tools that we do have that can help us move forward.
Hmm.
So, another thing that I want to point out is language. We talked the last time about, just being immersed into a new culture, learning a different language. So for people who maybe even the insight they have, they understand completely in their own language, but how they can even transfer that knowledge into another language. So, learning another tongue. So, what advice would you give somebody to pivot in how they can learn another language, regardless of their age? What tips would you give them for that?
That is a little bit tricky, because in my experience, at least, and I learned English sort of, I was going to say properly, but well, fluently, when I was already in my 30s. And I read books. I used to read the books, and my way of learning the language was actually uh, reading books that I have already read on my mother tongue. So at least I knew the story.
Mhm,
And that way I learned the vocabulary, because I could join one thing with another.
mhm,
But then what you find is that the language sounds entirely different from when you're reading a book or doing a course, to when you go out there on the street.
mhm,
Because people are not academic outside. They're not going to talk by the book. They talk,
right,
they cut words, and they talk very fast, and there's, little gyrations of the language depending on where you are.
mhm,
So, and the best way that I could say is, well, try and read.
mhm,
You can perhaps listen to songs in the language, because it tends to be a bit more like normal speak, but obviously with. And if you have the chance, speak with somebody that's native, because
mhm,
that's the only way that you can really learn the language properly, by using it, by interacting with people. And
mhm,
at the beginning, it's really, really difficult, because your brain is going to function in your language, and you try to translate everything, and then translate the answer back, and it's a bit of a process. And at the beginning, it's really cumbersome.
mhm,
But yeah, eventually it starts flowing. So it's exposure. That's the best way. It is exposure.
mhm.
So you really want to learn a language, as well as you can learn it. It's I was about to say 100% well, but that's not the case.
Right. I mean, hey, you
Yeah.
could even be a native tongue speaker of any language and mess stuff up. So that
Oh
really
yeah, but I got my funny accent, which I learned to live and love with. But yeah, I have the issue sometimes when because Spanish works. And I'm from Spain originally, from Europe,
Mhm, mhm.
and yeah, my language works a little bit opposite than English. So instead of saying a red rose, I will say a rose red.
Right.
That's the way it works. So and sometimes that's this come to me when I'm writing, and that's one of the editing issues that we had. My wife was telling me,
Mm.
"You sound like Tarzan." Golly,
I
again.
see. I
Um,
see.
but
Mhm.
yeah, with time, everything polishes and becomes a little bit better.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember the first year that I was here was absolutely. I was truly demoralized because I was thinking, oh, I'm never gonna be able to talk with these people.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's all a process, and patience is crucial. If you don't have the patience,
Mhm.
'cause I suppose we all have. Okay, I read the book, I learned the language in 3 months, and
Right.
you learn the basics, and you can sort of fend for yourself a little bit. But to learn the language is it's a bit of a process. Don't
Yes.
mean to discourage anybody, but it is a bit of a process.
Yeah. But I just think it's a good thing to bring up. So often we think about just doing things the same way, but even if we just say the knowledge I have, there's somebody that is where I used to be. They just
Mm.
speak a different language.
Yeah.
And we can overcome that barrier and that information can get to them. So
Hmm.
you're not doing anything different. You're just sharing your message with a different audience. That's kind of how
Hmm.
I look at it.
Hmm.
So, I just say that because, my thing is to speak Spanish and I still am not practicing, but I think it's more of a mindset. I've spoken in college and things, but
Yeah.
I just want to be fluent, but you're not going to be fluent with anything if you don't just get started, right?
You don't. You see, it's a little bit harder. Yeah. So,
I'm like way up here with these expectations, and it's like, way
yeah.
down here haven't even got started, right?
Oh, that's the problem. We always expect to get there very very quickly, and then we
Mhm,
realize that the the process through it is actually a lot slower than we thought, and a lot slower than we wished.
mhm.
But it's doable, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Is we really, I mean, human beings are really amazing. We can do pretty much anything that we set ourselves to do. Uh,
Mhm.
I mean, and I can tell you, if I manage to speak English in at least in an intelligible way, I'm pretty
Right.
sure you can learn Spanish too. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
has a lot. It has a lot of rules, though. That's the only issue. It has a lot
But
of rules.
it makes sense though. Whatever their rules are, they pretty much stick to it. It's just, English
Yeah,
has an exception for this, an exception for that. And
I know.
you-
I know. That drove me crazy. Like what? Yeah, yeah. No,
it does. It does. Or
the
words that the same word has like three or four meanings, all kind of stuff that you deal with the English language. So,
yeah,
you know,
I found it a bit challenging, but yeah, with time, you kind of get it right 90% of the time, and that's good enough.
yes, absolutely. So share with us some of your books that you've read here recently. This is something that we all like to,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
absolutely. Actually, funny enough, because I think last time I was telling you that I read a lot of books on, I don't know, on self development, on my own career choice of reading about
Mhm,
markets and reading about I don't know, anything that can give me a bit of a better understanding of life.
mhm,
And I haven't read fiction for, I don't know, probably about 8 or 9 years. And just recently, I stumbled upon this book. It was a fiction piece, man. It was really, really wonderful.
mhm.
And the title of the book is 1Q84. It's from a Japanese author, Haruki Murakami, I think is the name.
Mhm.
And it was really, really an interesting piece of writing, and it was quite a delight to read some fiction after so long. So I found it quite expansive, and I say, "Oh, right, I'm actually reading something just for fun." The book happened to be on a place where I was spending a week away,
Mhm.
and I had a bit of spare time. I started reading it, and yeah, when I came back home, I just had to find the book and finish reading it because it was pretty interesting. And other than that, I'm reading. See if I can remember. It's The Richest Man Who Ever Lived. Uh,
Oh, I think I've
the
heard of that. I
Yeah,
haven't read it though.
Yeah, and the author is Stephen K. Scott, if I remember the name properly, and it's
Uh-huh.
pretty interesting. It talks about King Solomon's teachings and
Mhm.
how he applied them in real life to want to become wealthy, really. And it is again, it's a small book, but
Mhm.
it's packed with content. So going back to what we were saying before, you don't need to have a like a brick thick kind of book in your mind. It can be something
Mhm.
like short and punchy and to the point.
I
And yeah,
love that.
this is a really beautiful uh, pellet of knowledge in just tiny little thing.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
yeah. I should have
So,
brought it with me in here, and I think I have it somewhere else.
okay. So
Just to show you.
Super Joe Pardo says good morning. He is a
Oh,
podcaster as well, so I have to connect you guys.
oh, okay.
Um, yeah, he is great. He was on a couple weeks ago.
Hmm.
So I love that, because I'm just a book buff. It's like I collect books, but if I could just osmosisly read them all, I would just be so
Yeah, yeah.
excited because I have
The
such an appetite for learning, so I think that is a really a great thing. So,
mhm.
what are some things that you have on the horizon for
Oh,
2021? You have your
all
book.
right. Yeah, what I'm doing now is I'm preparing to. I go back to study. um,
Mm.
all the first year, and yeah, because I want to get the. I need to get a registration for. I want to open my own investment advisory firm, and I need to
Oh,
pass this exam. So that's what I'm focusing on now. And
mhm.
so yeah, I'm going through this big manual that I need to pretty much memorize and then pass an exam in. I need to schedule it yet, but it should be April or May.
Mm.
And then after that, I'm aiming to open the fin in about June, if everything goes well,
Oh,
and
yeah.
just start trading money for people. Because yeah, I mean, I've been asked that so many times before. I mean, why don't you do it for me? Because I need the regulation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what I'm looking forward to. So I'll start taking clients probably June, July.
Hmm.
So
That's
that's
amazing.
yeah, that's something I've been wanting to do it for quite a while, and I had the issue that the exams were to be held in America, and which is fantastic if you live in there. But for me,
Hmm.
it's a bit of a hike,
Hmm.
and yeah, obviously we're not allowed to live here anymore for the time being. And but with all that, I just found out that they do them online now. So I said, well, that's
Oh.
fantastic. That's fantastic. You have to kind of show everything that you don't wear any kind of weight, but it's fantastic because the technology allows you to do that, and it just kind of drive me to think this again. And remember that we talked about this book, The Alchemist,
Hmm.
yes, last time, and it's when you're really wanting things, even though it seems like nothing's happening for you, eventually you'll find a way, and everything comes together. So yeah, that's my goal for this year to get that company, um, that side of the company running, and get a few clients on board, and then, well, obviously just make it grow,
Hmm.
and and through the years see if we can take it to the levels I want to take it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's good. It's encouraging to us, seeing that the results that we've been having for the last few years have been good. So what we do works, and in the end, just really itching to get it out there, and get some people on board and make some
That's
money for them, and everybody's happy.
I love that.
Yeah.
So that's good. So this brings me the question of, as we think about that book, and finding our way to the things that we want, what are some things that you find that, you just decided to give up? You felt that they no longer served you on the road that you're traveling of where you want to go. Because some people are in that space where, their life has changed. They've got to reinvent themselves, or,
Mhm.
certain things that they want are totally different than where they're at right now. But, it's the process. So, what
Yeah.
have you found that you've had to change or give up that has helped you continue to move forward?
the thing that I gave up, and I don't, excuse me, I don't have to think about it too hard. As when I first came here, I was completely lost, and like, what do I do? Because I guess it was hard to understand, and then we came with this idea that I actually quite like cooking, and I thought, well, I could maybe, you know, open something doing Spanish cuisine, and which wasn't that much in vogue here at the moment. So I said, all right, the way to do this is just to go back to basics and start learning from the base up. And I got a job in a restaurant, and we're just making meals right, left, and center. And at some point, I started thinking, no, this is not what I want to do. It was a way of trying to find something to do, but not what I really wanted to do. And yeah, I could see that the result was dissolving. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
and say, do I continue doing this and see it through, or do I look for something different? And just what really took me to decide was the fact that it is a really demanding business, and it also gave me a lot of respect for people working in hospitality, because they work really, really hard, like really, really, really hard. So yeah, whenever you go out to have your meals, just look after your waiters and look after the places, because they work really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And but what I was seeing from the kitchen perspective is like, goodness, I'm working 16 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I get to the point where I can set my own, I'm gonna probably be working even longer, and I don't even know whether it's gonna be successful or not. And this is when the thing came to me: what is the reason why I came to this country? And the reason was actually, I didn't come to look for a job. I came to be with a woman. I came to be with her and say, well, I don't see her. So this defeats the purpose. So I cannot keep going on with this, because it doesn't fulfill all that I need. I think something needs to fulfill you personally, like you're doing something that you love, but it also needs to fulfill the part of, um, I don't know, we all need a group, a pack, a family. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you cannot keep the time for that, it's just not worth it.
I love that.
Uh,
And that is so profound because so often, I was listening to somebody one time and they were saying, when you're planning out your schedule and you talk about your values, and one of the things that you say is, "Oh, I value family. I'm so excited about my kids." But then when you look at their schedule, there's no time on their schedule for
mhm.
their kids and family.
Yeah.
So I love that you said that, because that, even though it seems like such a um, familiar thing or something so simple to examine, we
Mm.
often miss it every day.
Yeah, and it's very easy because we get swayed and we get carried
Mm-hmm.
away with the. I mean, life's very busy, and we all strive to achieve and to get that little bit more. But yeah, I think we all need to find the balance of how much we really need,
Mm-hmm.
and how much of it is our ego wanting it,
Right.
and how much you value what you. Um, the thing is, when our life is over, and that will come for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing that you will have is the memories. And it's not that's my view. I don't know whether I'm right or I'm wrong. That's my view. And it won't make any difference to me if I had $100,000 more or $100,000 less in the bank. What will matter is the memories, and those are things that you need to work on a regular basis. But of course, we need to keep the machine going, so you cannot
Right.
fully stop. But yeah, it's just that finding the sweet spot that you can actually do your work, and you can keep time for your people, and keep time for your children, and keep time for your spouse, because that's what really makes us human. I think, and what really makes us If we're here just to work and then fall off the perch, that's no fun. We need
So
to.
true. But so
Yeah.
many of us have done it, okay? That's the
Mhm.
real talk. So,
Yeah. I mean, I've been in that situation before in my country, but at that point I was living on my own and I was working for a purpose. And
mhm,
I remember I was doing really long days,
mhm,
but it was for a purpose, and I knew I would cut it because I could not keep that rhythm. It's just crazy, like 14, 15 hours a day.
mhm.
It's no life, and then comes a point when you have your family and you have your group or whatever it is that you call it. I think you need to give a little bit of you,
Mhm.
otherwise there's no real enjoyment or not full
Yes.
enjoyment.
I love that. That's so true. So,
Mm.
you bring up a good point about the balance and things like that. So, and from a male's perspective, we have women who just kind of totally forget about it. I mean, I was on that spectrum to where I was dealing with depression because,
Mm.
I really didn't have any balance. I was thinking that I did. And, looking back now, it's like I was really crazy. But anyway, so what advice would you give somebody they were on that hamster wheel, such as what you said, being in this hospitality industry and
Mm.
deciding that this is not right and wanting to take a step in a different direction, create memories, so begin that journey of having fulfillment? What would you say is the first step that somebody could take that's
Uh,
manageable, going a
yeah,
different direction?
the first thing is to figure out what it is that you want to do.
Mhm.
Because you can, if you jump, okay, I'm jumping out of this because I can take it, and then you jump and okay, what now? Then you're gonna be in a worse position because you're gonna be out of a job and not knowing what to do. So first you need to figure out what it is that you want to do, and then
Mhm.
just take measure steps. Because the way that the life works is not okay. I get out of here and get there, and everything was hanky dory, all beautiful. There's always going to be a difference between what we think
Mhm.
or what we expect and what we find. And what we find is always going to be a little bit worse than what we expect, but
Mhm.
probably a little bit better than what we might thought. So there's always um, a way out, but we need to do it in a way that is measured. So you figure out what it is that you want to do, and then you start chipping at it. So I don't know, as an example, imagine that you're working on hospitality and you're working really long hours,
Mhm.
but what you want is, uh, I don't know, to become an accountant, uh,
Mhm.
whatever it is. What you need to do is, all right, I'm gonna spend 2 or 3 years of my life really working hard on putting aside a couple of hours every day to study and do what needs to be done, and
Mhm.
then transitioning into whatever else that you want to do.
Mhm.
Or I don't know, maybe you want to write a book, as we were talking about. So all you need to do is, all right, instead of going back home and go and watching TV, I'm gonna go and write 10 pages on my book.
Mhm.
It's all about finding a purpose first, and once you find the
Mm.
purpose, to plan the steps that you need to take in order to reach it.
I love that. Yeah, very
Because
important.
yeah, we can't really leap from A to Z.
Mhm.
Sorry, I'm out of the screen. From A to Z,
Mhm.
we need to go from A to B to C to D in order to reach
Mhm.
Z, and that's probably the problem sometimes, that we want to go too fast, too far.
Mhm.
But yeah, you take a step approach, we can do pretty much anything.
Mhm. I love that. And one of the things that just came to me while you were talking is, you can go from A to R and miss some steps in between, but this is why we can't usually maintain that level, right?
Mm,
Because we're jumping and we don't have all the building blocks
yeah,
underneath,
yeah.
that jump. And so when you do it in small increments, you can really fix mistakes, in a way that's manageable rather than being way over here and you're not knowing what needs to be fixed and it's overwhelming. So
Yeah, yeah.
I love that
Uh,
analogy. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can tell you what I'm doing now. It's something like I said I've been wanting to do for probably for 8 or 9 years. And all I can say is, so thank goodness I didn't start this 8 or 9 years ago because I would have made all kind of blunders. Because
Right, right.
there's so much that I still needed to know, and so much that I needed to develop in order to be able to comfortably go out there and say, yeah, I'm happy to do this. I had no problem. But yeah, it takes time and takes patience and takes perseverance, because sometimes we're going to feel like, oh, I just bucket this. This is too hard. But yeah, those days you just need to say, well, come on,
Yeah.
you can, and just find the motivation wherever you can. Like you probably can find it in your children. Like as I do find it on my child. Like I want to give her the best that I can, and some days I tell you I feel like. Let me sleep for 3 or 4 days, please.
Right.
Like a stray.
Exactly.
Then yeah, you look at what you have around and say, well, yeah, I can do this,
Mhm. Mhm.
and yeah,
Yeah.
that's the way to go. Really, we really a lot more resilient than we give ourselves credit for.
Mhm. So
All
true.
of us, all of us.
So true. And I think, it also matters how you surround yourself with the right people and even just putting the right things in your mind, reading books. That really is quite a great thing to do because, those thoughts and positivity are planted in your head. So,
Yeah,
that's the voices that you can hear when you do have those moments. And it's like, man, that book, they said this and that. It's just like having a conversation with them,
absolutely,
putting that
absolutely.
positivity in your own
Mhm,
mindset. So I think that's
mhm.
wonderful. Hmm.
Absolutely, and you're totally right. And you need to surround yourself with the right people. And if you cannot surround yourself with the right people, get the books,
Yeah.
because they're never gonna tell you you look terrible. They're just gonna give
Right.
you they're just gonna give you the information. They don't tell you you have no idea. You can't do that.
Right.
They just give
Right.
you the information and then you process.
So
Uh,
true.
but I was talking about this with my wife recently, and I just came to this idea that, and I think we probably mentioned this. There's many books that you read only when you're ready to read them. But the thing that came to me is like sometimes you read those books for the second time when you're ready to understand them.
I
So
love that.
it's a good idea to go back through some of them and to really understand the meaning of them, because as we grow, we
Mhm.
change and our understanding develops and evolves,
Mhm.
and the understanding that we can extract from a book that, like 5 years ago we say, wow, this is so good, and then 5 years later you say, oh my gosh, this is really deep, and I
Yeah.
get it now. And so it's sometimes it's not like let's find something new. It's like let's read back this thing again because maybe it
Mhm.
helps me. So it's
Mhm.
an interesting thing to go back. It's like going back to an old friend
Yeah.
that is ready to embrace you and give you another lesson. Mm.
Mhm. I love that. That's a good point. I love that. Mhm. So,
Mm.
what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
Well, for if they want to get a copy of that book or they want to talk to me,
Okay, yeah.
you can just access me through the email app is support
Mhm.
at nextgenoptions, that's all together,
Okay.
.com. I
Awesome.
don't know if I can write it here or.
Yeah, you can, and I'll put it on the banner really quick. That way I can just copy and paste
Alrighty.
it. Okay. And so while we're doing this, I always forget about this banner. So, what
Too many moving pieces
too
here.
many things, I'm
Yeah,
telling you. People
great,
are like,
great little,
you
great
should
little
do.
software. Yeah, it's a great little piece of software. This one, I like it.
Yeah, I love it. It really is good.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about, what final words would you like to share with everybody, as we are now in this space where we are now. Support at nextgenoptions.com. So see, it can scroll across there.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So if you, I'm not gonna ask you. I'll send you a copy when I have it ready, Lachelle, for
Okay.
you. But if anybody wants a copy, just send me an email there with free book or whatever it is.
Okay.
Or man, how did you get so many white hairs being so young? Whatever it is. Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
One final word. If I had to say a word only, I'd say believe. Believe in something, believe in yourself, believe in a higher power, believing in something. Because nothing in life happens without belief, nothing at all. So we were putting these examples of jumping from one business to another. Is what I meant. If you have a purpose in your mind, if you have a belief that you can do it, then you will find a way to do so. So that is the main word, belief, because that's what drives everything forward. That's what's actually changed the world from us being in caves to us being in spaceships, pretty much. Is because people will dream and believe that dream could be achieved, and that doesn't mean that you have to dream about being a rocket ship and go to Mars. That every dream on itself is beautiful and valuable and wonderful. So that's what I will say to anybody.
I,
Just dream and believe.
I love that. Yeah,
Mm.
that is amazing. So that is so true. We definitely need to have that mindset. So I encourage everybody who was listening today to reach out to Alberto. He definitely can give you some insight on so many things, from finances just to believing in life and, facing some of the challenges. When you find somebody that resonates with you, it's important to reach out to them because we have so many people online that we just don't know what to believe, who to trust. But if something resonates with you, please reach out. So check his website out and reach out to him to get a copy of his book. So we want to thank everybody for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again soon. And Alberto, it's just been a pleasure to catch up with you and talk to you again. So anything that I can do to support you, please feel free to let me know when it comes to your book that you're putting out. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for having me again. It's been a pleasure and a lot of fun. And,
Awesome. All
and,
right.
and yeah, have a great day, everybody. Great morning, I think it is for you. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Uh
Yeah.
huh. All right. Well, we will see you guys on the next episode. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Bye for now, everyone.